My ideal gaming space is comfortable, stylish, and keeps me competitive no matter what I'm playing. The PowerA Spectra-enhanced wired controller for the Nintendo Switch ticks all the boxes. Officially licensed by Nintendo, it is an epic upgrade for your Switch, here to illuminate your gameplay these Easter holidays. There's tons of cool features in the Spectra-enhanced controller, all for a great price. Light up your space with 8 programmable LED colors, boost your advantage with 2 mappable buttons, reduce latency with a 3-meter snap-lock cable, and plug in your headset with an inbuilt headphone jack. And you have more control than ever with precision-tuned analog thumbsticks with smooth anti-friction rings. Illuminate your gameplay these Easter holidays with the Spectra-enhanced wired controller for the Nintendo Switch, available at your local JB Hi-Fi store or online at jbhifi.com.au. Hello and welcome to the Press Start podcast, Press Start Australia's weekly video game discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ewan, joined today by my fellow gamers and co-hosts, Kieran.
Hello.
James.
Hello.
Shannon.
Hello.
And Brody.
Hello.
Already coming into this show, like, cry laughing after the shenanigans going on in the pre-show. I think we've got some weird energy, and I'm looking forward to where this show goes today as we talk about, I didn't short this list. What are we talking about today? A review from James, SEGA buying Rovio just shy of 800 million, Redfall's increasingly rocky launch, and a new Quidditch game on the horizon. But first, James, I saw on Twitter that you've been playing some of The Forest, and I know you're not really a survival game guy, but I'm a big fan of The Forest. How are you finding the game?
Yeah, good. Yui. I think. I don't know.
Does it scratch your like horror game itch? Is it kind of winning you around on survival mechanics?
I always wrote it off because I thought it was one of those annoying, you're thirsty, go eat. And then, drink. Yeah. And then
don't drink the water. The ducks have been
I struggle. This is why I struggle, because when I'm thirsty, I eat, and then I just die. Nah, but do you know what I mean? Like, I hate managing all that shit. It's why I hated Kingdom Come. It's just not my thing at all. But I think that this has so once you craft something, it's yours forever, and I think that makes a huge difference, for me. So. Just like you're working towards, it's not like you work towards these things for ages and then all of a sudden they break or you lose them or something. It's a lot more forgiving than I thought. I don't know how long I just talk about this really old game, but I do think it's really good. Like The Descent is one of my favorite horror movies, and I'm very sure it's been inspired by that. So to be able to play something like that.
What surprised me about the game is how much of a story there is it's not strictly a directionless.
It's not what I thought.
No, yeah. There is very much a story and narrative to follow and things to discover, and you go into each cave progressively and learn more about the world and what's going on there. It's really cool.
Can you play it on your own?
Cave is fucked. You could, but it's kind of creepy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. It's depends on
it's
what
definitely a game built
to
be played with, even just
one
other. Yeah.
Because you go into these caves and they're winding, and you come out at the other end and you don't know where and you're so disorientated because these caves are so, and that's probably something I also should say. Nothing is really randomly generated, which is what I also thought would be happening for some reason. The map is set. So there is this kind of, I hate things that aren't designed, only because that they can definitely kind of trick you or play with your expectations with proper level design. Whereas something randomly, you don't know, you might get this cave that's nothing of it, but you know what I mean? When you get a random,
it's all very deliberate. Yeah,
you might get a bad roll of the dice and have a bad experience, but it's good. I think variety-wise, it probably might get old because I feel like there's probably only 7 enemy types, and I'm hoping when I eventually play Sons of the Forest, that will be remedied.
Yeah.
But overall, it is really good.
Have you finished it now as well?
No, I'm only. I just got a map and a flashlight, and I know that's a big thing in this game. Being in the dark, it's really good. It's so tense, so terrifying. There's a clip of me on Twitter getting scared if you want to go watch it.
Oh, I missed that. I'm gonna have to go and look it up.
I don't startle often in games, but I did in this.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. If you do fancy giving Sons of the Forest a go whilst it's in early access, once you're done with the first, let me know. my friends were eager to play it all on consoles and annoyingly waiting for the full release of the game. But that's something we've talked about before. James, I will stay with you, though, because I do have more questions for you, and I'm sure the team will have questions for you, too, because you reviewed Dead Island 2, the long-awaited game, been, 10 years in the making? Something like that. It is here. It is real.
I don't really know if that counts, though. But yeah, like...
It's yes.
I feel like it's changed quite a bit.
Consistently been worked on for the last 10 years. Maybe.
Yeah, like 3 people have made 3 games, and only one of them has come out, really.
Well, the third crack at it, how did you rate it?
I think it's good. It's above average. It's how do I explain it without there's just some things I don't like, some things I really like, but overall I kind of felt like it was very similar to the first game. So obviously, if you really like the first game, you will like this. I've struggled to imagine anybody who liked the first game won't like 2. Yeah. But for me, I just felt like as you kept playing it, a lot of the objectives are exactly the same. Like you'll go somewhere, power something on, defend against hordes, move on, and then you just kind of repeat that loop ad nauseum. It really just didn't sustain my interest from beginning to end as much as I'd probably had hoped. They do introduce some cool elements towards the end, but they aren't resolved properly, and I've got a feeling they're going to be resolved in DLC. But overall, it is enjoyable. I just feel like there's not a lot to it. Which I think some people will appreciate that. Some people just want to sit down at the end of the day and just smash zombies' heads in. Or shuriken their legs off or stuff. But and I understand that. But for me, I don't know. There just was something missing. I don't know. I can't quite put my fingers on it, but I don't. Yeah.
Shannon and Kieran, I believe you've played a bit too as well. Brody, I don't know if you've dabbled in it a little bit.
Only a little bit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So we can all touch on it a little bit as well then. Kieran, perhaps I'll come to you first. Does that all ring true with you, what James is saying there?
Yeah, I think so. I've finished it as well, and it's definitely I'm surprised at how much I played it. I'm surprised at how often I went back to it, and I think it is just because it is so mindless, and you can switch off at the end of the day and just cave zombies' faces in, and it's that never stops getting old. I thought the whole flesh system was cool when they were showing it off, but I was I wonder how long this is actually going to sustain my interest in how cool the tech is, but it never once got old, I don't think. But then everything around it is kind of just very basic, very 10 years ago in terms of the mission design and character progression and stuff like that. So it's
yeah. I have a feeling I could be in the minority here too. It reminds me a lot of when I reviewed Borderlands 3, and I kind of have felt we've moved on from a lot of the humor and the gameplay design and stuff that this game has so many years on. Years ago, I might have even thought it was better than it was, but I just think with what's happened with open world games and stuff like that, and even the looter shooter in terms of Destiny, as I know it's not like Destiny at all, I'm not going for that vibe, but you know what I mean. There are just certain design elements of all those types of games that kind of make this just feel a little bit old in comparison.
In the same way, though, that it speaks to a very particular audience, right? Borderlands has its shtick, and if you like that kind of thing, it's there for you. I feel like Dead Island is its own variation.
I did really like the first Dead Island, and I like Dying Light. I liked Dying Light 2 despite its slow open. I just think with Dead Island 2, there's just a lot here that has been done before. And not even necessarily better. It's just been done before. It's very by the numbers for me. Yeah. That being said, there's go Shannon.
I was just going to say, it literally is as if this game was finished a year after the original and just sat on a shelf for 10 years, which obviously we know isn't the case at all, but that's for better or for worse.
It's weird that it feels that way because, it does feel like it.
It's the opposite of that. It's for... See, if you're looking at it and criticizing it, it's not a great game because you can easily pull it apart. But for me, I couldn't really get into Dying Light 2 just because it did take forever to open up and teach all the systems, where this really just puts you in there and you're smashing zombies from the get-go. So if that's what you're after, like James said, it will be enjoyable, and it's not anything more than that. Like exactly what you think this is, it is that from start to finish. So
I also like on like a more positive note, the skill system is. I don't know how I feel about the presentation in terms of the way it's sorted with the cards and stuff, but I like the idea that you can just grab when you own all these skill cards, you can just mix and match them to kind of create your own build like on the fly. Like you don't have to go and respec anywhere. You don't have to worry about you're not stuck with your upgrades forever. Like you can literally just change them whenever you want. Like I feel like that aspect is quite cool. But then on the flip side of that, like I don't really know why this game has multiple playable characters. Like story wise, you can tell they've recorded all the NPC dialogue and then just like slotted in your character's dialogue. Because no one ever refers to you by name, even though your character has a name. You know, the personalities are all kind of there, but like they don't. No one's playing off of each other because the lines are also like modulate. There's like, do you know what? Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? Like they just kind of slot your character's line in to react to whatever that NPC is saying.
Yeah, it's not like a back and forth kind of conversation or anything like that.
Yeah, and I couldn't help but think like, why they wouldn't just say, as an example, when you create your own character, and then choose your innate skills, like from the card deck or something. Yeah. It feels like extra unnecessary work for them because they would have had to record like 6 different sets of dialogues for 6 different characters, and I can't help but feel like, what is the point of all of that when the story plays out exactly the same, regardless, you know?
Yeah, I think the other really cool thing is the flesh system, which like that is the one thing that kind of keeps you going and really gives that satisfaction from a combat point of view. Because like if you hit a leg or hit an arm or hit someone's head with different weapons, like you can physically see how that plays out. And it is satisfying. Like it does still get a bit repetitive, but it's satisfying and looks really, really good.
That's where the fun came in for me, is like, okay, I've picked up a different weapon, or like I've imbued this weapon with a different kind of elemental damage, be it fire or electricity or whatever. Like, what is this going to do to the enemy? And even like trying to whack different parts of it to kind of see how the fletch system reacts. Like, I was kind of making my own fun out of the combat encounters rather than necessarily being confronted with anything different going into each fight. But granted, I'm still kind of in the early stages of the game. I haven't played through the full thing. For me, this is very much like a game I'm going to jump into with friends, be shooting the shit as we're kind of like mindlessly slaying zombies. And although it's kind of maybe more of my taste to play something like Dying Light, where there's a bit more going on, it's a bit more system dense, I can understand why someone might want a more stripped back, like go to point A, from point A to point B, kill as many zombies as you like from here to there. Don't worry about any parkour or how you're going to scale to the top of this building, anything like that. If you just want a kind of bit of mindless fun with friends, it's very much there for me.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that though, James, because you did note as a negative in your review the lack of cross-platform multiplayer. Obviously, though, being the nature of a review, you didn't have the option to do cooperative play and make use of its kind of singular platform multiplayer. How detrimental do you think was to your experience? And like, do you think it would elevate it substantially, being able to play it with friends, or are the design flaws kind of too prominent nonetheless?
I did pose that question to Shannon literally today. Like, I do think maybe if you've got a lot of people to play this with, because I think it's 3 other people, which I feel like a lot of games don't do anymore either. It's always 3 players.
Yeah.
I'd have to double check that. But regardless of how many, I think being able to mess around with friends, it would get pretty chaotic. I don't know how it would scale, but it could be fun for sure. I think it would be more enjoyable if you could play this with friends. Just like it's always about like, you know, what are you doing in between objectives, right? Like, and if you're playing solo, you're just sitting there. And like nothing else is happening. But like if you've got friends and shit, there's like, you know, bantering or like talking about, you know, what you just picked up, and do you know what I mean, like that element of it. But that element to me is like, you could always say that about any game. But yeah, like I feel like crossplay in this situation, obviously, where so many of you guys are on PS5, I was on Xbox. Like it would be great to have been able to play with you for like a few missions and stuff. I know Dying Light 2 doesn't. I don't think Dying Light 2 has that as an example, but it was more noticeable here where the game is more simple. So yeah, I genuinely think if you can play it with friends, definitely coordinate that amongst yourselves to play on the same platform for sure.
I was just doing a quick Google there. I think it might be just 2 others to a squad of 3. But someone fact check that.
It's always 3-player. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, that's become a bit of a thing. I don't know why. Yeah. But anyhow. Brody, I was going to ask you about the setting of the game. Based on what you've been able to play of it so far, how did you find the look and feel of LA? I thought it kind of worth noting, like when we're talking about, like Shannon mentioned it being picked off the shelf like soon after the original, like whilst design-wise it feels that way, it certainly doesn't look as if it's a 10-year-old game.
No, it's definitely, to be transparent about it, I've only played maybe an hour. So I've played obviously the intro and then maybe a mission or 2 past that. So I've only seen a little bit of what I assume is like West Hollywood. It's very, very upscale, I guess. So yeah, no, it's definitely a very pretty game. It's fun enough. I can see where it would get tiring very quickly, but I definitely see the appeal in the combat and stuff like that. I can tell just from an hour in that I'd probably get tired of the characters and the story and stuff pretty quickly. But yeah, like everyone has basically.
The setting is cool. Like, I think it is like, it doesn't really know anything about Dead Island. I mean, there's only been one game so far, but like, I don't think of this as an island. I mean, I guess technically it is, but yeah.
I wondered if that was some sort of like commentary on how insulated LA is, maybe from the rest of the world or something. Like they're so self-centered.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. And there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek commentary there. And the last location is pretty cool.
The location design LA is really good. Like all the houses feel like lived-in houses and feel like there's a personality there. So I feel like a lot of care has gone into certain parts of the game. Like that really took me back from the start.
Pretty early on, I think those that played the previous will probably experienced it, but like that streamer house you come across, where it's like some kind of like gym junkies kind of like streaming pad mansion. Like I just knew I hated the guy on the basis of the environmental art, which I think is like the best compliment I can think to give.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I played a game that was just that dense with like indoor environments, like especially in the like it opens up a bit in the later areas, but like that first area, I think it's like Bel Air or whatever. Yeah, like there's so much density to everything. I think my favorite thing about the setting though is that like because all the zombies were like LA natives before there were zombies, they're very easy to kill because you hate them automatically. Like they look like they were assholes in their like alive life that you have no qualms about like bashing their heads in.
Yeah, very true.
Sorry to all of our LA listeners out there.
Fuck y'all.
I'm sure there's even like, I get
like
it.
Food delivery zombies, and when you hit them, like food falls out of their backpacks. Like that's a cool touch. There's like little things like that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Final question for you then, James. Before we move on, perhaps. If Dead Island 3 should be on the cards, what would you like to see it offer new to the the zombie video game genre? What do you feel like genre-wise it needs to go these days?
I don't really know. I'm good at like picking out problems, but not really providing solutions, to be honest. But I think, what does it need to do? I think they just have to get the setting right again. And like I said before, just like more objective variety. Like, I don't know what that looks like. I can't. But, I just want more to do rather than defending against waves of zombies. Do you know what I mean?
Like, you can't rely entirely on, hey, you're killing zombies and finding inventive ways.
Pick up a valve handle and put it on a pipe and then do some simple maths. And that's like the 2 main objectives that you really do throughout most of the game. Like that's probably the main thing.
And
keep Flesh. I think Flesh is a winner. Like that's the standout for me. I mean, yes, it's a mainly cosmetic edition, but like it is very cool. Like, and I would love to see that in more games. Even if you just outsource that to everyone, make your money that way as well. Like every game should have it.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts on the game, James. You can read James's full review over on the website. And the game not far away from release. It'll be out, 21st of April the game comes out? Is that right?
It's out we do this every week, but it's out this Friday. Which is
if you're listening before Friday.
If you listen, otherwise it's last week.
2023.
The episode's dropping on Wednesday. We've got 2 days of listening. The game's out. I'm trying to think of a segue, Brody. I just don't have anything. So here's the thing, right? So like I had all these neat segues planned for the show, and then we chopped and changed the order of segments and threw out all my segments.
Everyone else.
So I've got nothing.
Don't blame everyone for your failures.
Speaking of dead games, Angry Birds.
I've got nothing segue-wise, but you know what Sega has? A ton of cash in the bank and a new studio at its disposal, that being Rovio, that they've acquired or planning to acquire for just shy of $800 million dues. So an awful lot. Shannon, maybe first to you on this. Sega buying Rovio, best known for the Angry Birds series. What was your reaction to this news?
Yeah, I was shocked mainly because it's a hard one because in my mind, Angry Birds is still like an overwhelming success, but I feel like that probably isn't the case in 2023. So I'd have to think that Rovio's value in terms of everything has gone down over the last 5-10 years instead of up. So in my mind, yeah, Sega from a gaming point of view I'm shocked that they're in a position to be buying anyone for 1.1. Was it $1 billion or was it 800 million? Anyway, it's a lot of money. I'm shocked that it was them buying Rovio and they were able to outbid like a Netflix or anyone else who's trying to get into the mobile space. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. I didn't have this picked at all as something that was happening.
Kieran, and you and I were talking a little bit about it yesterday, and around like the Angry Birds license. What's your sort of feeling on that? Like, do you think there's still a lot of value in Angry Birds? Would Sega want to do something with Angry Birds going forward, do you think? Or is this maybe a step into the mobile space and trying to get a talented team to work in there?
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of both. Like, obviously, there is still going to be some value in the Angry Birds license. Like, they made movies and TV shows. Like, it hasn't. Like, people know what it is still. It's not like it's disappeared completely. So they could come back real big on a new Angry Birds sort of, franchise revolution if they really wanted to. But also, like Rovio has like 500 plus employees. And they've made all kinds of genres of mobile games. They've really kind of expanded their portfolio, even though it's all Angry Birds for the most part. I feel like if Sega's serious about broadening their horizons and stepping into the mobile sector, then it makes sense. It's just a surprising amount of money. I think that's what everyone's kind of more confused about than anything else. It's 1.1 billion Australian dollars. So it's not insignificant.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I wasn't quite sure because I was reading different numbers, and I think like initially Wall Street Journal had reported $1 billion, and then it was revised down. But yeah, 1.1 billion Australian dollars. Cool. Thank you. Yeah. You and I we're talking about this yesterday, Brody. The price value of it. Who do you think's got the better deal here? Like Kieran and I were talking yesterday about Lucasfilm being acquired for $4 billion by Disney back when that was sold. I feel like getting Star Wars and Indiana Jones is better value than getting Angry Birds, albeit at 25% of the price.
Yeah, like one can't help but agree. But what's $1 billion when you got Sonic money? So I don't know. And what's the inflation on that? Like,
I got my money, right?
That's right. When did they buy that? Like maybe was Lucasfilm like 10 years ago? Maybe.
God, it might have been now.
Like Force
Awakens
was
yesterday,
2015.
it probably was. So, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. The value of the dollar could have fluctuated wildly between them. But, yeah, look, $1 billion for what I would describe as a developer that I haven't thought about in 10 years, I'd say, good for Rovio, I guess. But, yeah. Anything to capitalize on that mobile space, I suppose.
Any thoughts, James? Are you eager for another Angry Birds game?
I'm not fussed. I'm pretty okay. But, I thought there was like drama there recently because didn't they took their original game off because all their new games are doing poorly. So they were like, well, we're going to take the original away so you can't buy it anymore. So you'll buy a new
so you're forced to buy the new ones.
Yeah. I was like,
that stood out to me as well. And I feel like that shows that, it was such a flash in the pan.
That's not like a move that a winner makes.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Right?
It's the only game my grandma plays. She loves Angry Birds.
It was a good game in that time.
My mum was addicted to that for a long time.
Maybe this is just like
who remembers Bad Piggies? The spin-off.
I don't.
They were all
that.
good.
Oh my God, is that a thing?
There were multiple.
Yeah, it was.
I honestly don't know if I've ever heard of anyone having seen the Angry Birds film too, or have an opinion on it whatsoever. I feel like I might have been watching too much Succession recently as well, but this definitely strikes me as a good deal for Rovio. It kind of sounds like this was the most amount of money that they were going to get for the company, and to kind of sell it at this point and just like cash out makes a lot of sense. And yeah, if Sega goes on to do more with Angry Birds or just kind of spin up a big mobile division out of the team, I guess that could be cool. I just don't play any mobile games anymore or at the moment, so that doesn't excite me terribly much. I'll tell you what else doesn't excite me terribly much, though, and that is a lack of 60 FPS mode in Redfall
segue.
when it launches. Thank you, guys. I'm trying my best here, improvising, as always. Yeah, Redfall not going to have a 60 FPS performance mode at launch. It's just going to have 30 FPS kind of quality mode options, maybe in a couple of different variations, but yeah, no 60 FPS mode. Brody, I'm going to come to you first. I know you've been played a bit of Redfall for the preview. Was this an
Redfall?
Redfall?
So you feed to those dirty ducks.
It's just as terrifying.
If you could guess already, at the pre-show we were discussing ducks for some reason. Anyhow,
I'm sure they
Brody,
all put that together, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, you
how would
mentioned
they
ducks
ever?
earlier. I needed to explain the repeated
yeah,
mention
right.
of ducks
Okay.
somehow.
It's made it weirder. Keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Brody, did you play in a 30 FPS mode when you previewed Redfall?
Oh, look, I actually can't remember. I played it on PC, so I reckon it could have been
Would have
60
been
frames.
60.
I think it would have
Yeah.
been 60, but I'm the absolute wrong person for this sort of thing. Like, my brain just doesn't register it, like, unless I'm thinking about it. So I guess I
Okay.
didn't notice it in the moment. So I guess that's...
you're a good person to hear from then, because people are very opinionated on this, but it's like you seem to have the luxury of not being able to distinguish between 30 and 60.
Is that a
so
luxury?
you're just like content.
Yeah,
Well,
what
you're
an
content
existence.
either way.
What was that, sorry?
You're content either way. Like it doesn't phase
Yeah, I am. Like, I don't mind, because, I mean, I can name a dozen 30 FPS games, including Prey and Dishonored, like that I've played in the last decade that are fine. But I think it's more a standards issue. Like, Xbox boasts to have the most powerful console on the market, and they can't get this game optimized to 60 frames, and I think that's a problem. And I guess the crux of the article I wrote this week was basically Microsoft trying to get, like, they just need to give this game a chance to succeed, basically. And it's got such a bad issue with, PR around it at the minute, like, throughout, like, the whole last year. Like, you've had the host-only progression, always online, now this. It just seems like there's a bad taste in everyone's mouth before the game even comes out. Granted, it previewed well, but, like, it just keeps having these setbacks. And, like, this feels like it's, me and James have longed for this moment, but it feels like it's the first domino in Xbox sort of, changing their strategy, and I guess starting to deliver the things that they've promised, like the big game every quarter and stuff like that. And I feel like with every setback, which Redfall could now have if people don't flock to it at launch. Thank you, Shannon. We need the support.
For audio listeners, Shannon's just put on an Xbox beanie.
Yeah, and it feels like it needs to be the first big hit, but like with every stumble and every game that I guess fails, which I guess now is a potential risk, like it just puts so much pressure on the next one, and it just seems like they'll never get to where they need to be. So, like I floated the concept of, like delay the game another couple months if you're going to get it to 60 frames. Give it a chance to rather than come out and basically get washed by everybody and then forgotten in a month. Like, give it a chance to actually hit and, be the best version it can be. So, I just want them to, put out good games. That's all I've ever wanted.
I think that's
But
important.
that said, I did play it, and it's great. It's great as I played it. Yeah. I do worry that at 30 frames it might feel slow, because like I said, if you're playing solo, it does feel slow getting around the world as it is, so it might be pretty noticeable. But please, James, go on with what you were going to say.
No, I was just thinking, like, if a brand like Halo launches shit and then tries to get better afterwards and then gets forgotten, like, what chance does this have? Do you know what I mean? Like, you really need to get it right.
And like
the first time.
Halo was a live service game, so that had an opportunity to, put in months. It didn't, but like it had that opportunity to try and win people back, whereas this has not been sold as a live service game. Like, I think it's like a I don't know, was it Outriders not live service? That was just a story game, basically.
It was like it looked like Destiny, but it wasn't.
This strikes me like
people had that expectation. Yeah, similar to that.
Strikes me like an Outriders. Like, and if they miss this moment, like people like, there's just too much coming out as well. Like, there's more games to play than ever, and May, early June, like they're all going to be busy. So if you miss your moment, that could be it.
Yeah, like the good news is that they've already said that there's it's going to be patched later on to run at 60 frames per second, but that means more people are going to be waiting for that moment as well. And like depending on what their time frame is, we could have moved on by that point.
But like I said as well,
argue though, it's not a big deal in a game like this where you're probably waiting with your friends anyway.
And it's on Game Pass.
A competitive game where like you feel like you might be missing out from a season pass or a battle pass or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's fair.
To Brody's point, I think it's a big deal because of the whole, it is like Xbox's first big game of the year, and it is like Xbox Series X is meant to be the most powerful console. On the other hand, like I think back to a year or two ago when almost no console games were 60 FPS and like people were fine with that. So I don't think it's like a dead game, don't play it kind of vibes, even though people feel that way. But yes, I do think you want it to be running and looking immaculately on the Xbox Series X for sure.
Yeah,
I think honestly, I think it's enough of a reason for me to wait for the patch to come out. Like, I suppose I'm privileged that I can be able to play this on PC, so I guess I won't have to deal with the slower frame rate at launch. But yeah, if I was only on console, I'd probably be waiting for the 60. Like, I've got it every game I fire up now. I default goes to the performance mode and play it at 60. I don't even waste time with the 30 modes. I've just like made that jump, and going back is just so hard, and it stands out. I'm kind of envious that Brody can't see it because it's all I can see when I switch it to 30 now.
Talking about standards though, like I do feel like developers kind of shut the bed a bit in terms of we were pushing ray tracing so much pre-gen launch, right? And then obviously it came out, and then everyone was like, oh, wait a second, it means we're kind of sacrificing 60 frames.
I don't think ray tracing was the be-all and end-all of this generational jump, though. Like, I think it was all about
it was
speed.
all everyone was talking about. Everyone's talking about load times and ray tracing. Like, it was dominated every conversation. 100% UE. UE.
I thought higher frame rates were a thing, though. Like, there was the talk of like 120 FPS on these consoles with HDMI 2.1 and stuff. Like, well, we're struggling to get 60 at this stage.
Just like I just remember like Shannon used to say it was like the be all end all for me. And I'll be like, what? Yeah, like
ray tracing is amazing. Like 4K 60 and ray tracing is like.
I'm sure that is, but like that was never going to be a thing.
$4,000 computer to pull it off.
No, you're right. It sounds like everyone is trying to do everything. Like there's like 17 modes that want to be the best at what they're doing.
And like I think with Plague, I talked about this with Plague Tale last year, was it? Like and that game obviously launched at 30-ish, I think. Like it wasn't a 60, and people were making a big deal about it. But I do think like we kind of in this race now to get 4K graphics, like there are going to be games that aren't going to be 60, and we kind of just have to learn to live with it. Like I mean, obviously not my favorite game in the world, but like The Last of Us was 30 at launch, and that's because at the time it pushed like graphics like no other, you know.
But I think like at the time, especially on PS3 when that came out, like that was par for the course. Like we didn't know any better, but time's gone over and that kind of benchmark has shifted. And I think like I can understand having options. It's like, cool, you want to play at 4K with ray tracing enabled, that the trade-off is you play it at 30. But not to have like a dialed down 60 mode this day and age, I just think it's a weird
it's a weird spot to be in where you might not, there are people who won't play a game because it's 30 frames. Like to me, like that is like prohibitively like anti-art almost. Like people
let's not go down that path. I agree with you, James. I agree with you from that sense, but to Brody's point, like I do think just the fact that this is like the first big Xbox Series X game launching in quite a while, like it should be
like in the context of
first-person shooter, which I think is a big factor as well.
In the context of Redfall, I agree. You probably don't give a shit, but let's just say Naughty Dog's next game is like 4K 30 only. Like, are you really not going to play it? Or exactly. So like, shut the fuck up. Like that's my point. It's like
it won't be though. I can almost guarantee it'll be.
People are so like keen to shit on Redfall.
I'd be disappointed. Of course, I would be though.
I don't know if it's a 1-to-1 comparison. Like Naughty Dog pushed the envelope graphically.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. And I'm not at any point point. I'm just saying, like, from like, let's just talk about, let's recontextualize.
I think genre is important too, though. Like, a first-person shooter, like, yes, first-person shooters at 30 FPS are a thing. Like, I played the Battlefield games on PS3, and that was definitely a 30 frame per second thing. But
two generations ago,
Call of Duty really set the standard of, like, the part of the reason why Call of Duty always felt as good as it did was because it ran at 60 consistently. And that's kind of been what people have come to expect now.
And it runs at 120 on PS5 and feels great as well.
Yeah, exactly. So
I also just think that like Brody's main point is that obviously they need this game to be a success. So like, if Naughty Dog brought out a game at 30 frames that was free on PlayStation Plus, but then they were like, in 2 weeks or 4 weeks it's going to be 60, I would hold off and wait and play it in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. So I feel like if they want this to land on launch properly,
yes,
that's where it like gets confusing, because we know, like, it's not like they're not going to offer that mode. It's just not coming straight away.
It is interesting though, because like, I wonder if strategically Xbox are all that fussed about stuff like landing at launch. Like,
that's the other thing. Like,
was
Game Pass
elongated
is
thing.
different. Like
These elongated.
That was the other thing that I
Halo.
sort of mentioned. Like, we don't really know what their metrics of success are anymore.
No.
Like, they don't ever release what their units sold are generally. Like, they'll say, "Oh, we had 20 million players come through Game Pass," and if Redfall pulls in another 2 million subscribers, that might be a checkbox for them. Like, they might be happy with that. Like,
I don't think it will, but B, I think it's still like, you want a day one like spike for PR and marketing. Like, to your article's point, like,
I think that's more the thing.
Gaming is a big thing.
That's more the thing. You want the moment. You want to own the moment. Like, you don't want to come out and be like, "Oh, we'll own the moment in 3 months when we're actually 60 frames."
Yeah,
when no one gives a shit.
And they kind of had, I mean, I guess it is a pretty contested space to drop it, but yeah, I don't know. So much work goes into like setting that release date and trying to find a clearing and own that weekend or whatever.
Like, it's like a week before. It's a week after Star Wars, and it's 2 weeks before Zelda. So,
someone said that Arcane games like traditionally don't run super well. Like, I can't really speak to that because I haven't played them a whole lot. But is that true? Like, what was Deathloop like on PS5?
I thought it was fine.
Deathloop was fine. I remember, like, Prey. It was fine too. I think Dishonored was a bit rough, but
Dishonored and Prey were both 30, but like, I think they were.
But Prey's 60 now. Like, again, like, I guess we're proving the point. Yeah, right.
Actually, I think there was. I'm thinking back to the release of Deathloop. I think there was some optimization issues on PC at launch, but that's so often the case on PC.
But that happens like every PC release. Yeah.
There's always some kind of jumpiness or stutter or netcode issue or whatever. Anyhow, we're definitely going long. We do have one more topic I was eager to get to. Oh, James, have you got more to say on Redfall?
I was just going to say everyone
it's on Game Pass. So
I was going to say anything to do with Redfall.
On Resident Evil 4, like, you had to play that in 60. Like, you couldn't play it in the visual mode on PS5.
Some people do.
It dropped below 30 quite a bit
when
I tried to.
Yeah, okay.
It's certain mode. Like, 60 is just nicer. Anyway.
Well, that felt like a hard pivot to Resident Evil 4, but no harder a pivot than I'm about to make to Harry Potter Quidditch Champions, which was announced this week. After being notably absent in Hogwarts Legacy, Warner Brothers Games have announced that Harry Potter Quidditch Champions is coming to PCs and consoles. So no, we're not clear what consoles yet, and it looks to be a stylized, competitive multiplayer, obviously all themed around the game of Quidditch. Shannon, maybe I'll come to you first. You've played Hogwarts Legacy. We're opinionated on the fact that Quidditch wasn't included in there. Felt like it was a missed opportunity. What do you make of this news?
I was surprised to see it this morning. I think I expected that we'd see Quidditch come to Hogwarts Legacy as DLC. I saw someone say today that it couldn't be in Hogwarts Legacy because of a licensing issue, and I don't know enough about the Harry Potter world to know why that could be a thing. Anyway, there were obviously a lot of comments in terms of like people saying, "Oh, this is why it's not in Hogwarts Legacy," blah 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 blah. I still think we could see it in Hogwarts Legacy. This is something clearly very separate to that, but I think, it's just based on sales and everything I've seen with Hogwarts Legacy and how well that's done. Like, smart move to pivot not pivot, but continue going into that space with Quidditch.
This would have been planned from the beginning, though, right?
Yeah. I don't think it's sprung up in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, or the last 2 months even. I don't. Yeah.
What's totally set. You could say that about any franchise or game, like Mario. Like, let's just put Mario Kart or Mario Tennis in Mario. Like, not really, but you know what I mean. Like, you could say that about anything in the world.
I think what might have happened is potentially, like, obviously the developer behind this is a support studio for, like, all of the other major WB studios. I've got a feeling maybe these were together. This is my conspiracy theory, but I do genuinely feel that these two things were together at some point, and then the penny dropped in one of the meetings, and they're like, shit, we can make this like a season pass multiplayer, standalone game where you buy like dumb hats and cool robes and like fiery broom effects to like kit out your witch or wizard with, and then like make it a thing, right? Like I feel like that was potentially something. Because it's weird to me that this weird support studio is lead on this random ass game that has been announced about 2 months after.
But it's got like free to play vibes. Like, it's not, doesn't have like AAA. We don't know it's I'm just speculating. Like, this is my own speculative moment.
Okay, take your moment and shine.
You could argue that its art style is radically different from
exactly. That was my point.
So
it's much more
slap
like
a filter on. It's just got a filter slapped over it.
Just smeared.
No, I reckon there's some truth
anything with tech these days. Apparently,
James, lead developer.
I think there's some truth in James's conspiracy theory. I buy it. Like, it seems.
You love a conspiracy, though.
I do love a conspiracy theory. It's true. It does seem to me, though, that they made it that they had intended to be Quidditch in Hogwarts Legacy in some capacity, and then was just. Isn't
it possible they're just trying to capitalize on the success of Hogwarts Legacy?
But
they knew they had a banger. Oh, Chipmunk James is back. Chipmunk James.
Why did it made him sound so angry as well?
I was like, what is that noise?
I love this mic glitch. Why does it do this?
Oh, man.
We still don't know.
I can't wait to hear what he was blasting us with.
I can.
To continue my point, though, like, it felt like they were going to have something Quidditch in there. Like, there's obviously the arena. They make mention of, like, the season being cancelled repeatedly. Like, they kind of go to lengths to justify why it's not there. I don't know.
I think, is anyone agreeing with me that, I think that Quidditch will still come to Hogwarts Legacy in some fashion? Like,
no.
I think it will. The arena's there.
Han, there is no way. That's why I'm saying.
This is totally separate to that, though. Like, this is going to be like roller champions on a broomstick. It's not.
This is like reverse vibes. Like, it looks.
Don't say that.
The same. Okay, that's reverse and roller champions are like in my eyes.
They're racing to the top of everyone's list. But like, well, I don't know. I think Ewan's right because he thinks that I'm right. So
I was like, he literally just said I agree with you. Left it at that.
Like, I'm happy with that result. So
no, I think that it'll come to Hogwarts Legacy, and this is just totally separate.
I think you're dreaming. Like,
what do you mean? You're insane. Like, it's totally
I'm
different.
Not insane.
Like,
it's so like back in the day.
Not back in the day.
I also think that they want to like.
There was a separate.
It might confuse the market if they, have this free-to-play game and then bring Quidditch to Hogwarts Legacy. It might.
Yes. And I think there's going to microtransaction the shit out of
for
Quidditch.
Warner Brothers.
Exactly, literally. Like, this is going to be a multiplayer broomstick Quidditch thing. And
but they didn't want any of that in Hogwarts Legacy because it was going to suddenly be like, oh, it's microtransactions, it's game as a service. Like, they just wanted to keep that separate and just go, this is a single player.
Ewan's on my broomstick now.
No, to be clear, I'm saying it's not coming to Hogwarts Legacy.
It is.
They've made it
a
deliberately sensitive.
I don't believe that, like, with how like all encompassing like Hogwarts Legacy is, with that whole like day in the life of a Hogwarts student, there is no way that they didn't put Quidditch in there first. Like,
they
had
to
Shan.
have considered.
Okay, it's still coming. Like,
ultimately, the broomstick flight doesn't really service the game terribly much. Like, there are some time trials in there. It's not particularly an effective way of getting from A to B.
Because it was there and they cut it out.
No, I can't wait for the Jason Schreier expose proving
you're
James's
such
point.
I'm agreeing with James that they've thought at some point, let's split it into its own thing. But that doesn't mean it can't come later to Hogwarts. And they'll charge for it and get double dipping both ways.
Nah.
Why would you not charge like $40 for an expansion when it's sold like 30 million copies?
Nah.
Okay.
I disagree.
It's a great point. Great argument.
Yeah, no,
it's hard not to jump to your side of the fence.
I've honestly already made my point. I'm just not interested in talking about this anymore. Like, if I'm being completely honest.
You're not willing to hear anything that challenges it.
People will buy a separate game. Like, absolutely. Like, it's not...
This is going to be free to play.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that vibe.
That wasn't what I was talking about, but sure.
Ewan,
Okay.
do you think this has
with
the
it.
potential to rival something like Rocket League?
Thank you. That's a great question, Brody. I wish I had thought of that before the show and written it down in the show notes. Yes, I think it does. I think like if Hogwarts Legacy has proven anything, is that despite JK and all the real bullshit, that there's still a lot of power to the property that is Harry Potter and Hogwarts. And I think
Which I'm still surprised by. Like,
and even like HBO, the TV series and stuff as well. Like it kind of keeps kicking on. Which anyhow, that's a whole.
That is a good point because this is labeled Harry Potter, so it's something totally separate.
It's that is a surprise that it's not Hogwarts Legacy Quidditch
Because
Champions.
it's fucking got nothing to do with Hogwarts Legacy, you grog.
it's probably got nothing to do with Harry Potter. Like, what do you mean?
I think this does
Do you know what I
have
reckon?
potential of like, assuming it can execute the kind of concept of Quidditch, like in some sort of compelling way, which is no easy feat. We spoke last week about how difficult it is to recreate AFL in a video game. Like I feel like Quidditch in itself is a hard thing to reproduce, but assuming it can do that and it's got the kind of brand that it has, I think it could be quite neat. And if it's able to kind of capitalize on the magic of Rocket League and replicate that tight systems in some sort of way, then yeah, I reckon it could have like an esports-esque appeal to it, but albeit to maybe a more casual audience.
We'll have to wait and see. There's a lot riding on whatever happens with this, so I'm keen to watch it unfold.
I think it's better for them to do that than like say, I don't know, like chuck Hermione into Fortnite and she's running around with like an AK-47. Like that, like makes. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Do you know what you mean?
That'll happen too, I'm sure.
The image you
it's
conjured in
coming.
my head was a strange one.
but yeah.
All right, well, let's move on. I've got a rapid fire question for you all. The Melbourne-made role-playing musical game Stray Gods got a release date this week. It is coming out August 3rd this year, nice and soon, which is delightful news. Kieran, I'm going to come to you first. What game would you like to see made into a musical adaptation? Be it a video game still or something else? Theatrical production?
Like it could be a theatrical production?
Of course it could be, yes.
Ooh. I should have thought about this in advance. I kind of want to say Tetris, even though I know that just got a film adaptation, but I'd love to see like a romantic, like operatic musical spin, like stage play spin on that. So like people just dressed up as Tetris pieces.
Yeah, I could see some like
Going at it on stage.
some dance.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be hardcore sex scenes, like graphic sex between the Tetris pieces in between musical
Just, like,
numbers.
slot into place perfectly.
Brody, what game would you like to see adapted into a musical?
My gut reaction was for it to be Hades, but I feel like that's
That is a gut reaction.
That's stylistically very similar to Stray Gods, I think. So
Yeah,
I'm
the art
going.
looks very similar.
Yeah, I'm going to say Death Stranding, just cause.
Ooh.
It just happened. You just happen to have
it'll
a
be-
computer in your
That
desk.
prop.
Or...
It'll
For
be
this rapid fire.
It'll
or
be
is it-
8 hours long. Troy Baker will do all the songs, and everyone will be tired of it about 2 hours in. So
No, the audience has to walk from one theater to another before the end.
like that PlayStation presentation they did.
Well, I see you mentioning Troy Baker. Stray Gods obviously got Troy Baker in it. I'm going to
see what I
keep
did.
on with that thread and say, obviously, The Last of Us, because if you've all seen the alternative
did that, didn't they?
ending.
Yeah.
Well, they only did the final scene. There's an alternative ending to the original Last of Us game, which they did do a musical scene.
I
And
thought
I
they
would
did
love
a
to see
stage
that.
show. I must
They
be mistaken.
did. I think they did that scene again, but I don't think it was the full thing as a musical. But I would obviously love to see that. That'd be amazing. James, you look deep in thought. What's your answer?
I'm trying to think of something besides Resident Evil.
Resident Evil.
You know
would be
what?
well suited.
Psychonauts. I feel like that world.
That's a great
That's a
shout.
vibe.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that would work. So I'm going to say
would be
that.
great.
That's more exciting.
Shannon?
I don't know. I'm just going to go with the first thing that came to my head was Mortal Kombat.
Escape.
After Ape Escape, I was going to say Mortal
Mortal
Kombat.
Kombat.
And yeah, just watching that. Mortal Kombat, the second movie, let's make it a musical where every character has their own musical intro and scene.
That would be a
do it.
twist.
I
Would be
know
a twist.
this is meant to be a rapid fire, but After Party also just like sprang to mind as well.
Oh, no. Let's move on from that.
I was looking at my Switch games. Would it be
I don't like
cheating
that
to
game.
say Scott
Fun
Pilgrim
concept.
versus the world?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. But that's like... Oh, no.
That's a
Kind
movie
of a
already.
comic book that's then a movie.
It'd
then
be a good
video
stage
game,
show. It would
some
be.
combination.
Why don't we go the other way and make Moulin Rouge a video game?
Oh,
Yes.
shit.
Does that not exist?
Right.
Surely there was like a PS1 era.
Tie-in.
DS game.
Oh, hang on. No, wait. I'm thinking of Mulan for some reason.
Not Moulin Rouge.
Moulin Rouge.
The best crossover that we could ever have.
Oh, well, I'm going to do really well in What the Wiki this week, the Press Start podcast game show where the previous week's winner reads part of a Wikipedia page for an unknown game and we, the contestants, must guess the game. A point is awarded for each correct guess. And the round ends after one person scores 2 points. Currently in the lead, we have Brody on 11, James on 9, myself on 8, Kieran on 7, Shannon on 6, and with nil points, James W. As last week's winner, Brody is in the hosting chair this week.
Hey, hello. I did have an idea for a theme this week, but it was going to be games my wife can name, but she couldn't. She couldn't name 5 games, so I had to pivot. So apologies. All right, let's start with game number 1. The game is a point-and-click game that contains text-driven dialogue. There are no traditional puzzles or challenges, with the focus of the game being storytelling and atmosphere. The player controls blank by clicking on the screen, either to guide him to another location or interact with other characters and objects. The player also has the choice to choose said person's dialogue, and occasionally the dialogue of other characters during in-game conversations. The game is separated into various locations between which the player...
Ewan, I'm going to take a stab in the dark. Is this Telltale's The Walking Dead, Season 1?
It is not.
Damn it.
The game is separated into various locations between which the character can travel using his truck. That's a little bit of a hint for you. A map is shown when...
It's not, but I'm just going to say Day of the Tentacle, knowing full well it's not, but I don't know what else to say.
Interesting choice, but no.
Kieran,
Kieran.
is it Kentucky Route Zero?
It is Kentucky Route Zero. Well done.
Well done.
Well done.
No, who knows about that game? Like, full stop.
It's a game I
Brody's
know
wife.
of, but could not tell you anything about.
I actually played
Shit,
that quite recently.
There
you
you
go.
go. All right.
Kieran.
Kieran on 1.
Cahoots.
All right. This might be a quick one, so have your buzzers ready. The game... I don't know where to start, because if I start here, it's
Said this was going to be
over.
quick.
Sorry. I hope you don't get it now. The game is played from a top-down perspective and is set in an apartment suite shared by a
Shannon.
husband and wife.
James.
Shannon.
Hotline. Miami.
James was next.
Oh, man. I don't know. No, I'm not. Yui knows it, so I'm just
Kieran
gonna guess.
knows it.
Is it like 37 hours?
I think it went Shannon, James, Ewan, if I'm being honest. So, Ewan,
12 minutes?
it is 12 minutes. Well
So
done,
why did I say
Yui.
37 hours?
You had like the right idea.
You were only
Were you
36
thinking
hours.
27 hours?
You're only 36 hours and like 48 minutes off.
Like 127 hours? What's it called? When he gets stuck
All right.
behind a rock?
Okay, this next
That's
one. might be
127 hours.
Thank you. Thank you.
In 28
All right.
days with Sandra Bullock.
So, catching up. That's Ewan on 1, Kieran on 1. Let's go. The game is set in the far future, where humanity fights against an army of giant monsters collectively called blank. To combat them, the player controls soldiers that operate giant mechs that can be equipped with
James.
James.
Oh.
Can I have like one more sentence?
You can't.
Fuck. No, I fucked
You
it.
can
I
opt
fucked it.
out. You can opt out.
Can I buzz back in as soon as I know?
Yes.
Is that
Okay, James opts out.
Yeah.
All right.
False alarm,
Operate
right?
giant mechs that can be equipped with a variety of weapons, armor, and other equipment. The game uses a turn-based combat system, allowing the player to coordinate the actions of their team in response to enemy moves and actions that serve to telegraph their attacks.
Ewan. I have no idea if this is a game. This is a pure punt in the dark. I'm just going to combine a series of words and hope for the best. Is it Armored Core Tactics?
It is not.
Okay.
In combat, the player controls 3 different mechs against blank, and will be given an objective for that map, along with a fixed number of turns to complete that objective. The principal goal for any map is to protect civilian structures which support the power grid that supports the mechs.
Kieran.
But additional objectives... Kieran.
I feel like this is wrong and I need more information, but is it front mission?
Is what?
Front mission?
It is not. I'm going to move on to a more interesting part of the
Please do.
The game came out of an idea that the developers had following the success of their previous game. They had tried various prototypes for the game, including one for a grid-based tactical system, which they recognized was seeing a resurgence in the video game industry due to the success of XCOM. However, they still needed some type of hook to differentiate their game. This came as a response...
Shannon, I don't know. No.
Oh, shit. I think... James. Oh.
Did you want to say something, Shannon, or...?
Does it have the words star in it?
No.
Okay,
No.
I don't know what it is.
You might be thinking of Star Renegades.
Yeah.
I have another
It is
guess,
not.
but let James go first.
That wasn't my
James
guess.
is next.
Is it FTL?
It's not FTL.
Fuck.
Is it Into the Breach?
It is Into the Breach.
That's the one that I always
done,
confuse FTL with.
Kieran.
Fuck.
FTL was their previous game, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, congratulations, Kieran. Those are all
the
games.
worst.
Because I thought we were
Well
going to
done.
talk about Joseph Staten. They're all on Netflix games. So,
Oh.
there you go.
There
That
we
wasn't
go.
a clean sweep, so just 2 points for the Kieran, please.
Which meant...
Who are you speaking to?
Why were you bored
Ewan,
just then?
the showrunner. My wife.
which means that myself and Kieran now tie on 9 points with James, closing in on Brody.
And let me know at
On
home
the
if you
top
would have won
11.
What the Wiki this week, because they were some long rounds.
Yeah, we
They
were
were.
pretty slow to get those.
I think
But with
that's
that,
the
let's bring an
longest
end to what
ever.
was this week's episode of the Press Start podcast. Subscribe to us on Listen or the podcast service of your choice. Follow us at press.au and visit the site at pressstart.com.au. We've been joined today by Kieran.
Hello. You can follow me on Twitter at hashbrown, HASH_BRAUN.
Joining us today, sharing his review of Dead Island 2, it was James.
Yes. It was me. You can find me on Twitter at Jams. ATJAMZ.
Did I confuse who reviewed it? I had a mild panic there. I
No,
got
it was
that.
me.
Oh, okay.
That was
Definitely me.
accurate.
Also joining us
absolutely.
today, it was Brody.
Thank you. You can follow me on most things at Brody_DG.
And last but not least, it was Shannon.
You can follow me on Twitter at shancake_. I don't know why I'm laughing.
I just said Shannon very weirdly. Shannon!
Shannon Rixty.
And I've been your host, Ewan Roxburgh. You can follow me on Twitter at Ewan_Roxburgh. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, happy gaming.
Bye. Thanks
for listening to this episode of the Press Start podcast. Now that I'm done, it's time to pick up the controller and get gaming. But not just any controller. It's time to pick up the PowerA Spectra Enhanced Wired controller for the Nintendo Switch. It's available now in-store and online from JB Hi-Fi, and believe me when I say the Spectra Enhanced controller is one of the flashiest you can get for your Switch. Just check out some of these features. LED edge lighting with 8 colors to choose from, a 3.5mm headset jack, a 3-meter detachable USB cable, and a soft touch feel with awesome ergonomic design. With official licensing from Nintendo and a 2-year limited warranty, you know it'll deliver the goods every time you fire up your Nintendo Switch. Illuminate your gameplay these Easter holidays with a Spectra Enhanced wired controller for the Nintendo Switch, available at your local JB Hi-Fi store or online at jbhifi.com.au.